used to be that, you would want to be recruited by somebody else. Now what happens is you seek out an opportunity. And so in essence, businesses, a lot of them are still operating almost like a tugboat in a harbor where they're trying to move one ship at a time. They're trying to go and find that one entity. And unfortunately, it's limited in its scope. It's subject to a lot of human failure. It's mechanical failure. You've got issues with cost associated with it, right? To get a ship moved in a harbor with a tugboat is a lot different than if you're using a lighthouse. And where consumers, what's changing, particularly with millennials and the generation thereafter, and even with more savvy Gen Xers and so forth, is what they're doing now is they're seeking out opportunities that they want. And so businesses oftentimes fail because they're not putting out a strong enough message, a strong enough signal about who they are. Google has no challenge finding talent, right? Talent is banging down their door every single day. And the great organizations, the one that have the best culture and the best leadership, ultimately become attractors of talent. They become that lighthouse. The phrase that I use all the time about relentlessly upgrading your talent really means that if you don't have the right people, it's up to you as the leader, as the visionary, as the guy who's driving the organization to either rectify the situation or replace the personnel, right? And you rectify through coaching, you rectify through leadership, you rectify through candor by sitting down and explaining, this is where we're going. Can you get on board with that? If you can't get on board with that, then we're gonna have to move in another direction. And and as a leader, having the courageous conversation in that moment with those people is going to be really the determining factor on whether or not you can get there, right? I can cast this great vision about all the things I want our organization to be, but if I don't have the right people in the right positions, we'll never get there. There's a lot of people out there, I think, that are, entrepreneurial. They've got a great idea, but they don't have a way. They don't know how to execute. And I talked last week about jumping in, right? That you've got to make the jump, and that it's hard when you have this bag of responsibility. And I gave you some ways that you can kind of prime the pump to make it a little bit easier. But the fact of the matter is you need to go out there and sell. You need to get out there and get in front of people and show them your value proposition enough times until you get the confidence that you're going to be successful. And oftentimes what happens is you fail one time and you go and you into the corner and you suck your thumb. That's not going to get you where you need to go. The minute you have a plan B, you are destined for failure. Your plan B is the nemesis of success. It really, because what it does is it gives you, room for self-doubt to creep in. It gives you room for this, these other thoughts about, maybe I'll do something else, or maybe if this doesn't work out. If you're thinking that, you immediately have to realize you're done. Stick a fork in it, it's game over. Look at your watch, call the time of death. Your business is in peril. And what I found over time is whenever my business was struggling, I doubled down. I went even harder. I worked harder. I stopped making, I made more sacrifices. I made more investments. I found more people, and that's the difference. There's a big difference between respect and reverence. When people respect you, they might listen. When people love you, when they revere you, when they hold you in high regard because you've sacrificed, because you've been generous, because you've cared about them and their family, because you look at the greater good. When you hold those things as priorities, ultimately what people do is hold you in such high esteem that they'll come to your funeral, that they'll be there. And they'll speak of you, at this other level. And when that happens, man, when they love you, they'll die for you. They'll do anything for you in the home stretch. And I think, as you always look at every relationship in terms of what am I giving? What am I doing? Am I contributing more to them than they're getting from me? That's the essence of servant leadership, and really the key, I think, to creating a harmonious team and ultimately reaching your maximum potential as an organization. Where you are right now has nothing to do with what you did yesterday or the day before that, or even the day 3 weeks ago or a month ago. It's years. Right. It is tireless. It is being in the grind and starving and fighting and facing all the doubters head on. Right? And this recurring theme, but I just think way too many people think, oh, it's gonna wake up and boom, I'm gonna be Jay-Z. I'm gonna be, in a G6, and it doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen that way. I mean, for anybody.
No.
People that are really successful, they never settle. They're never happy where they are. That's not to say that they're not happy. It's just they're not satisfied with that place and where they are because they're perpetually pushing themselves to grow a little bit more. You know, Freud says we move away from pain and towards pleasure. And, you know, if you think of success as a continuum with on one side being not a lot of success financially, professionally, emotionally, and the other end of the spectrum being everything you've ever dreamed of emotionally, professionally, and financially, most people start a lot closer to 0 than they do to 10. And as they embark on that journey, right, they hit adversity, they hit challenge, they hit frustration, they hit rejection, they hit people that say no to them, they hit people that are rude or disrespectful. And, you know, and how they deal with that really defines what they become. And interesting enough, like as you progress and as your success grows, it's new challenges and it's new adversity. But, you know, when you're faced with it, you're either going to break or you're going to break through. I think that you know, for a lot of businesses that are in their infancy, they fail to understand the implications of every decision they make. Being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you get to play golf every day. Being an entrepreneur means that if you're playing golf, there has to be an implication that leads to more business. It doesn't mean that you get to, you know, take off early and go to happy hour, or that you get to have long lunches, unless they're going to help you positively impact your business. You know, flexibility is something that a lot of entrepreneurs decide to go into business for, and you know what they do? They flexibility themselves right out of business. Flexibility is something you earn with profitability. When you're profitable, you get to make choices. And I think that you know, when you have a holiday weekend, what you have to understand is that's an opportunity for you to get ahead of the curve. What you also have to understand is that most entrepreneurs are exactly like you. They're fighting for their survival, and so they're making the most of every minute. So though they're receptionists, though they're administrators, though some of their employees may be away, they're going to still be at the business. So when you make that prospecting call, they're going to be there to receive it, and you're going to have more success. Businesses tend to get small instead of getting big, and that's really about control. Right? It really comes down to having confidence that your vision of reality, that you've defined it well enough and that you've influenced people, right? You can get people to do the things you want to do because they want to do it. And when your vision is strong and when you can articulate it and when you understand, you know, the plan of how to get there, then realistically what you need to just do is keep giving people the opportunity. Let them fail spectacularly. Failure is a learning process. Like it's only an end game. It only is the end when you quit at that point and when you take it back. When you have somebody in a position that's holding a position inside your organization that may or may not get you to where you want to go, what you have to do is ask yourself, would I hire this person enthusiastically if the position was open? And if not, what changes do they need to make to change my opinion of them in the next 30, 60, or 90 days? And I think I don't think I've ever seen a more succinct way to know whether or not you have the right person in the right position. And remember, you're not always looking for a quality person. You're looking for people with the qualities to be successful. What you need to understand as an entrepreneur is that moving forward is the difference, right? That you have to continue to persevere. You have to continue to take risks. Break it until you figure out how to make it work. And I think that a lot of times entrepreneurs, what they do is they become, you know, particularly new entrepreneurs, right? They become distracted and they get mired and paralyzed with uncertainty. Like the worst type of action is inaction. Like you're never going to achieve the things you want by staying still. Staying still is going to only get you to go backwards. And just like in a gym, right? If you know, when the alarm clock goes off, if you hit snooze, right? You don't feel like after another 10 minutes, like ready to bounce out of bed. When you know, if you delay going to the gym until later on, you know, like soon all of a sudden what takes priority is everything else. And entrepreneurism is no different, right? The minute that you allow yourself to be distracted by the noise and you don't focus on only one possible outcome, in spite of what everybody else thinks, in spite of what everybody else is doing, you can't wait on somebody else. You have to move forward. Interesting enough, like most of like the failure we experience in life really is a byproduct of the story that we tell ourselves. And we make excuses to protect our own ego from the harsh reality when we fail, right? So you know, ultimately, pretty much if you boil down any excuse
it really comes down to, a way to let yourself off the hook when things aren't necessarily going well, right? So, my experience has been there's three, right? I don't know how means I'm not really willing to put forth the effort to learn. The second biggest excuse you always hear is I can't afford it. And that really just means I don't want it badly enough. Because if you really want something badly enough, you will beg, borrow, steal, you'll work an extra job, you'll figure out whatever it is you have to do in order to have enough money to make things happen. So, when it comes to hiring an assistant, the story we tell ourselves sometimes is, I just can't afford it yet. Well, when you make it a priority, right, you will choose to afford it, you bust your ass, you work hard enough because it's bad enough, important enough to you that you'll make it happen. And you have to eliminate that excuse from your mind. And the last one is I don't have enough time, which really just means it's not a priority, right? So if I don't have enough time to do X, Y, or Z, I don't have enough time to go to the gym, I don't have enough time to spend, with my kids, I don't have enough time, you just haven't made it a big enough priority for yourself.
And all too often, what happens, I think, in business, for entrepreneurs, for businesses, big and small, for salespeople, instead of focusing on what they want to achieve, instead of focusing on their end objective, they get mired in what everybody else is doing. They adjust their strategy to what the competition is doing. You shouldn't be thinking about how can I keep up with what the guy who's maybe grabbed a little bit of market share. You should be thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of how you can absolutely dominate in the market space. You can't ever allow yourself in any moment to be distracted by what people around you are doing. Your success is not predicated on somebody else's success. It's not a zero-sum game. I think that all too often, like businesses, particularly when they become successful or have a period of success, they begin to stop focusing on their own intention of domination, and they start focusing on the things that are around them. They focus on other businesses or other people that are grabbing market share as opposed to how they can go out there and smash it going forward.